It was a crazy back and forth weekend, but the Tigers come out on top, sweep Cleveland, and all-star rosters are announced. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, July 7th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. The Detroit Tigers have themselves a great 4th of July weekend, as I hope all of you did as well. They sweep Cleveland in Cleveland. A lot of close games. 2-1 on Friday, 1-0 win on Saturday, and a 7-2 win on Sunday, but it was in the 10th inning. The Tigers are now 57-34 on the season. First thought is, again, kind of how close and back and forth this weekend really felt. Sweep is a sweep. We're going to take it. This was a one-run game, and an extra innings game. And on Sunday, the Tigers were literally down to their last strike, and then a passed ball scored Zach McKinstry, and it sent it into extras, and then they put on, a 6-run 10th inning against a really good reliever. So Cleveland is just a thorn in the Tigers' side, but it's a sweep. Was it pretty? No, but that is a team that plays close games. They pitch really well. Their offense is an absolute atrocity at the present moment and has been for most of the season. That's a good pitching team that historically the Tigers have had trouble with, especially in big games. Division rival on the road. We celebrate sweeps here, okay? Especially against Cleveland. We certainly do not complain about them. I was blown away by the reaction all weekend from the fan base. I tweeted this out, but if you only would have read internet discussions about this weekend, you would have thought the Tigers got blown out by 20 runs every single game. They swept Cleveland. I don't care. Again, they pitch well, they hit horribly, and you were on the road. Low-scoring games was always likely because of that. It also plays into your strengths and weaknesses. A Tigers team that pitches well and has hit well this season, but when you were building and predicting what the Tigers were going to look like, we all said pitching was going to be the strong suit and they were going to have to hit well enough to get wins. And the Tigers came out on top every single game. That is a beautiful thing. This team finds a way to win. That is a skill. That is important. And they did it 3 times this weekend in Cleveland. So what went right? The pitching. This really does feel kind of like an old school episode. I say old school as if, I'm talking about like 30 years from now ago. But it really feels like an episode from early last season or even prior to that, like the 2022 season, where we're talking about the pitching did really well. The offense really didn't. That's kind of, and there's a few exceptions to that on either side of the ball. But in general, what went right was the pitching. 3 total runs given up all weekend. 1 run against in the first 2 games combined. And then 2 on Sunday, and one of those even was the Manfred runner. So 2 earned runs all weekend. Fantastic. Now, it is, again, important to note, Cleveland's offense absolutely reeks. It is awful, okay? And that is not me trying to, poke fun or kick a division rival while they're down, okay? That is, I'm sure most Cleveland fans would agree with that. They've lost 10 games in a row now. They are 0-10 in their last 10. This offense has been shut out like 5 or 6 times in the last 10 games. It's an atrocity. Okay. So the pitching, I'm not saying that the Tigers pitching is like the best in the world for shoving against Cleveland, but I am saying they did their job and they did what they should have done and what they are supposed to do. And that is not give up runs to this absolutely abysmal offense. So tip of the cap to the pitching. Let's start by talking about starters. Reese Olson back, pitched on Friday. Wasn't efficient, but the stuff looked good. 4 1/3, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Obviously, the 1 home run, or the 1 run against, was a homer. And it was against J-Ram, like in the first inning in his first outing in almost 2 months. Like, I don't really care. His ERA is 2.89. The changeup was thrown and looked good. He just wasn't. I already said efficient. He was kind of spraying the ball all over the place. The command was very ineffective and inconsistent, but he'll be fine. Like the stuff looked good. It looked just like he did pre-injury. He had no qualms or any hesitation to throw the changeup, which was the big question mark with his injury. The velocity was good. Great to have him back on the mound. I have zero concerns with Reese Olson going forward. He will be fine. And there's even a chance that he's this team's second best starter when everyone's at full health, post All-Star break this season. That being said, Casey Mize was also fantastic yet again. Casey Mize goes 7 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. His ERA is now down to 2.63 on the season. I am just so happy for him more than anything else, man. Like we'll talk about, what was working and why he was effective, but like I am just so happy for him with all he has, been through with all the injuries and is he going to live up to the hype and all the talk about that. Like for him to have such a good, pre-All-Star break and first half of the season as he's had this year has to just feel amazing. And I am so thankful that AJ Hinch left him out there for the 7th. He even gave up a base runner, gave up a double, and he still got left out there and finished off the inning. Like that is so unbelievable and so awesome. I am so happy for him. The splitter was working really well in this game as a ground ball pitch. And I think that is the biggest thing that I'm looking for out of him in the second half of the season. A lot of his underlying numbers and a lot of the like predictive stats, if you will, indicate that his ERA probably is set to go up in the second half, but that's because he's not getting a lot of strikeouts. It's really as simple as that. And I think that the splitter is going to be a huge key in that. Now, obviously, the breaking ball was pretty good in this outing. The thing that I like the most about it is he had no fear throwing it to lefties. And that's something that, if you would have told me a year ago, I probably wouldn't have believed. So I really like the pitch mix. I really like how good he has been at getting weak contact. But now that he has a 90-mile-an-hour splitter, a couple different variations of breaking ball, and a fastball that can touch upper 90s, I think it's probably fair to say, hey, let's take the bat out of the batter's hands a little bit more often and get some more strikeouts. But he's 9-2 on the season. The Tigers have won. It's like 12 or 13 games that he started. I am in no way, shape, or form complaining about his performance in the first half. I'm just kind of looking ahead and trying to identify, maybe ways he can continue to improve so that this is more sustainable, I guess is the way I'll word it. But this was a fantastic outing. He had a ton of ground balls, a ton of, pop-ups and weak contact all over the place. And the splitter was a really big reason for that yet again. Let's talk Tarik Skubal. What else can you really say about him, though? Okay, we'll try right after this. First, though, got to talk to you all about our friends over at Monarch Money. Have you ever wished managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're into growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you can also build your wealth. There's so many great features over at Monarch Money, and I think one of the biggest ones for me is it helps track all of your spending better than any other place I've found. It really easily highlights what you are spending, maybe more than you thought on, or if you have a subscription you forgot about, etc. It's so awesome. There's also specific categories like takeout and subscriptions, where you can see what those numbers add up to on a monthly basis. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Tampa Bay Rays. Today, though, we talk about a sweep in Cleveland. No negativity, okay? I don't care that the Cleveland has lost 10 in a row and is terrible. I don't care that you're like 15 games up on this team, and that's what you should expect to do. I don't care that they maybe should have lost on Sunday. We just swept a division rival that we lost a playoff series to, 9 months ago, and have kind of been owned by for the better part of a decade. We're celebrating it. Let yourself be pleased with a result for a weekend. I know a lot of people are. I'm not pandering to everybody when I say that, but I just saw so much negativity for a sweep in Cleveland. I was baffled. Okay? This is a good thing. This was a successful weekend. Let's act like it, okay? Tarik Skubal, 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 10 strikeouts. I think the most satisfying thing for me personally was seeing Tarik Skubal on the mound, David Fry hitting 2 and going 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, and his OPS dropping to 498 on the season. That'll bring a tear to your eye. That's just one of the most beautiful things you could possibly see. He's unbelievable. His ERA, like I said, is now 2.02. There's a chance he probably gets one more start before the All-Star break. I'm not really sure how many games are left. I have to check the calendar, but there's a chance he's walking into the All-Star game with a sub-2 ERA and maybe even the highest strikeout total in baseball. I don't know. He's unbelievable. I don't even really know what else to say about it. He's the best pitcher in the world. He's the best pitcher in the world, and he's a Detroit Tiger. And that's pretty freaking awesome. The bullpen also was great this weekend. We'll talk about kind of the decision-making on Sunday a little bit later. But Chase Lee, ERA down to 2.05. I really think this is a guy that if he had the innings of, the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, you're heavily considering him for like all-star, votes at a minimum, or again, just like consideration at least. And the thing that I liked the most about the bullpen usage this weekend, and I tweeted this out, so if you follow me there, I'm sure you already saw me say something similar, but like AJ is just such a good manager. And again, we'll talk about Bailey Horn and all that on Sunday, but like to go back to Brant Herter and Tommy Kahnle, given their last few weeks in a one-run game and have them come out on top, it just means the absolute world to those guys. I talk all the time about how fans can sometimes, and I'm a part of that. I'm not like saying that from a looking down perspective. I am certainly part of this group, but we can be too overly reactionary and too reactionary to an 162 game season. And I think AJ is so good at his job because he is not. And sometimes that frustrates fans, but it also leads to great confidence from a manager across, instilled in players. And I think that does worlds for a team over the course of a 162 game season. So really good to see Herter shove and look as good as he did, and great to see Tommy Kahnle get a save, his third consecutive day on the mound, 1-run game, and for him to come out on top there was just absolutely beautiful. Speaking of players who are starting to turn it around, Tyler Holton, 2 2/3, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts. His ERA net now back down to 3.86. Awesome. That was pinpoint command. I actually cannot express enough how good Tyler Holton's command was on Friday. It's maybe the best we've seen from him all season. It's certainly the best we've seen from him in the last month plus. Beautiful. Was dotting the fastball and the cutter to righties and lefties. That is what makes him great and dynamic, and it was really good to see him do that and give the team almost 3 innings on top of that. And then Will Vest, huge outing on Saturday, 4-out save, ERA down to 2.25. So yeah, the pitching was obviously a focal point and is obviously the biggest reason why the Tigers were able to win. The offense does not do a whole lot. Those who did stand out on the offensive side of the ball, I think Winfield Perez on Friday just had a great game, gets an outfield assist and a home run in the first few innings. That's awesome to see. And then Torkelson, I actually thought had a solid weekend. Gets on base every single game, has a knock on Friday. That is a home run on Saturday, whatever day was the home run day. Gets on base in all 3 games, though, and got on base a couple of times on Saturday. He now has 20 home runs and is pushing 60 RBIs before the All-Star break. And that is awesome. I know some people kind of freaked out a little bit in the end of June. He wasn't hitting as well lately. Now in July, he's turned it around again. And his offense is back up, and he's hitting like he did in the first 2 months of the season. I'm telling you, man, like the adjustments he has made are noticeable enough for me to be willing to wait out this whole year. It's a 162-game season. There's going to be peaks and valleys and ebbs and flows. Ride it out and let's just see. Let's not jump to conclusions and start calling for the dude's head when he goes, struggles for like one series. There's a lot of games left to be played. Let's just see how it plays out. 20 home runs and, like I said, almost 60 RBIs before the All-Star break is a beautiful, beautiful thing. What went wrong? Speaking of not overreacting to players that maybe have a down couple of games, Riley Green, rough weekend, just really doesn't seem to hit Cleveland this year. But that home run in extra innings, which just is an incredible display of bat path and power, I think is awesome on a few ways. One, just because he literally hadn't had a hit against Cleveland yet this year, so that was beautiful. But two, kind of reminded people. I think there was a huge reaction like, oh my goodness, he's falling again. Riley Green is falling off a cliff again. Look, he's gone like 4 games without a hit. Oh my goodness, he's coming back down to earth. He's gonna like whatever. Well, here's an opposite field home run against one of the better relievers that the American League has to offer in extra innings, because why not? The offense in general, obviously, is on the side of things that went wrong this weekend as well. They do enough to get a sweep, so we're not going to complain. But again, outside of the 10th inning on Sunday, which, if to use basketball or football or hockey terminology, like in regulation, in the first 9 innings of all 3 games, the Tigers only scored 4 runs. And that's just obviously not going to cut it. Now, again, Cleveland sends some pretty good pitchers out there, has some dogs in the bullpen. But that is something that you don't want to see consistent. Now, I saw a lot of reactions to that. They put up, like, what was it, like 20 some odd runs in the Nationals series. Now, the Nationals don't have good pitching. Crazy, okay? Teams don't have good pitching. They give up runs. Teams that do have decent pitching don't give up runs. That might be how it works. I'm not sure. But for real, I urge you to just, we'll take it. We'll take it. Something that did go wrong that I am going to overreact about and going to openly say that I am overreacting about. I cannot stand playing against Stephen Kwan. He is legitimately one of my least favorite baseball players on the planet. I'm sure he's a wonderful human being. He seems like a great guy. Cleveland loves him. They should. Okay. He's a talented ball player. I despise playing against him. He is the most annoying at bat I've ever seen in my life because he doesn't expand the zone. He never swings and misses. He can hit anyone, and he just consistently gets bloopers. Like, he has no slug. He doesn't even have a super high walk rate this year. He'll draw a walk, don't get me wrong, but like, he's and like that play that he had against Torkelson, that's genius. That is awesome. That is so cool to watch from a baseball fan perspective. It made me want to scream violently in the moment, though. I'm talking about defensively, the play against the wall where he made it look like he was going to catch it and then kept Torkelson from getting a double. He drives me nuts. And I would love to not play against Stephen Kwan for a very long time. Let's talk stuff, okay? We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment. I almost said weekend of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, stuff from this beautiful sweep of the Cleveland Guardians. Bailey Horn. So we want to talk about that decision. I mean, as I always say, hindsight is 2020. I feel a little bit more comfortable saying this because the results went the way it did, but I feel like a lot of people are really mad at AJ for the decision. I don't love the decision to bring Bailey Horn into the game. I will say that. And his command was not very good. The stuff that was featured, I actually didn't hate, though. That's a 97-mile-an-hour fastball from the left side with a pretty solid sweeper on top of that. Maybe he's just a lefty specialist, and the decision to bring him in is obviously not going to look great, etc. The Tigers were also getting shut out through 8 2/3 with 2 strikes. Like, the offense did not do wonders, and I'm sure the bullpen is managed a little bit differently if the Tigers have a lead in that situation. So I don't love it. I would have gone to a lot of other people instead of that. That being said, I am interested in how Bailey Horn looks on the mound going forward. This is someone that the Tigers have been very adamant on continuing to bring in. We remember all the stuff from the offseason. He was on the roster, then he wasn't, and the Tigers traded back for him. Like, just they really have gone out of their way to ensure Bailey Horn gets a roster spot at a minimum in this organization. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what he looks like on the bump going forward. But I don't hate a lefty that can throw 97 and has a sweeper to pair with it. Being added to this pen, especially if he's like the low leverage reliever, and obviously Holton and Herter are going to be higher on the chain of command list in terms of left-handed pitchers. So we'll see. But I am not disagreeing that the decision for him to go in that moment in the game probably isn't the greatest thing in the world. And I don't know, if you're going to go a lefty anyway, you already had one on the mound. I know you got to save bullets for, the second half of the season and for October. I completely get it, but it just optically is not the most pleasing thing in the world. I want to give all the credit in the world to Zach McKinstry. On Sunday, okay, this dude got on base, stole second, then advances to third on a ground ball that was hit to the left side, by the way. Then advances home, scores the run that I've referred to earlier, pass ball, final strike of the game, scores, ties the game, sends it into extras, also plays first base for the first time in his professional career. Has never played first base at the major league or minor league level. Plays it and fields it well. Like, made a couple of really nice plays, had a flip to first. They didn't test his scooping ability, but goes out there with a first base glove and looks fine. He doesn't even get an all-star reserve nod, which I think is so brutal. And so, you look at some of the other names on there, I think McKinstry pretty comfortably deserved to at least be a reserve, man. Hometown bias, call it whatever you want, that's fine. It would have been really cool to give a player like that credit. A guy that I came on this show a year ago and was talking about please can the Tigers DFA him? So happy to be wrong. He has been a massive part of this team's success in 2025. He's hitting unbelievably well. He's playing every position. He's running the bases very well. He has been legitimately one of the most valuable players in the Tigers roster this season. And that is not like a hyperbole or an exaggeration. That is backed up by statistics. He has been one of the most valuable players on the Tigers roster this year. And that is just unbelievable. 285 average, 812 OPS, has played every position except pitcher, I think, now at the major league level, maybe pitcher and catcher. Actually, maybe he's pitched. Maybe it's just catcher. Incredible. So massive tip of the cap to Z-Mac, not only for his performance on Sunday, but on the entire 2025 season. Also, wow, the Nationals just fired Mike Rizzo and Dave Martinez as I record this. Unbelievable. They just took 2 of 3 from Detroit. That doesn't mean anything today. Golly. Yeah. So in terms of other news and notes from the weekend, I really appreciated the lack of pitching to J-Ram and just being willing to, anytime first base was open in an even remotely high leverage situation, let's just put him on base. I appreciate that, AJ. Thank you. My doctor appreciates that. My heart appreciates that. All of that is appreciated. Oh, and the Tigers are now doing their flurry of, I'm not re-recording this. I'm not editing anything, and screw it, we'll do it live. The Detroit Tigers are doing a flurry of roster moves and are calling up Max Clark to Double-A Erie, just announced like literally 53 seconds ago as I record this Sunday afternoon. They also are calling up Jose Briseño to Double-A Erie. I would imagine that means McGonigal is also called up, but that announcement, if it is true, has not happened yet. So yeah, really exciting. And we knew that was coming, and we knew that it was going to happen all at once. They were just kind of waiting for, getting a little bit closer to the All-Star break. Also, like when the draft happens, they're going to have, I talked to Rahilio Raj over at Tigers Minor League Report about this, and he had a great point about, once they get closer to the draft, then, they're going to have a big influx of roster spots. So yeah, makes sense that, and there you go. Kevin McGonigal officially being promoted to Double-A Erie as well. So the 3-headed monster of Clark, Briseño, and McGonigal all will be in Erie in the second half of the season. That is unbelievably exciting. Good that we talked about that right now. Perfect timing, really, right when we're talking about stuff. Another play from this weekend, Gleyber Torres, just so unnecessary. Like it obviously wasn't intentional, and like I'm not actually mad at Cleveland for doing so. People want to throw it at players and whatnot after it, which I love. Like, fire up the fan base. I love it, but it's unnecessary. That's not like needed. He didn't intentionally do that. It just is so on brand for something like that to happen when we're playing Cleveland. Like, and I'm sure that goes both ways. I'm sure they don't like playing us either. But it just was very frustrating in the moment. Now, he did pinch hit on Sunday, so that leads you to believe that he's fine and everything's good, and hopefully that is the case. Other roster moves, PJ Poulin, left-handed pitcher, it was added to the 40-man, and Sean Gunther put on the 60-day IL. Now, he was put on the 40-man and then optioned to AAA, so we will not see him, at least in the immediate future, in a Tigers uniform. But more left-handed pitching depth. This organization is obsessed with adding as much of that as possible. In terms of all-star roster voting, Tarik Skubal, and that is the only other addition to the 3 that we knew of, which is Torres, Baez, and obviously Riley Green. No relievers kind of surprises me. I was kind of holding out hope that Will Vest would make it. I think he's probably deserved it, but they got to get representation from everybody. It's honestly really hard to look at, especially Canley's blow up. Will Vest, his ERA is over 2. He's still great. That's not like a bad thing. He's got a 2.25 ERA. That's fantastic. But in terms of like trying to find spots for the All-Star game, you got to have one representative from every team. And I think that kind of just bites the Tigers in the rear. A team that when the Tigers were really bad benefited from that for many years because Joe Jimenez and Gregory Soto every year and whatever now kind of bites them because they don't have just like that overpowering dominant reliever in their bullpen. So you're kind of left without too much representation outside of, the best pitcher in baseball in Tarik Skubal. Hopefully he starts it. We'll get more news on that as we get closer to the All-Star game, but we got to figure out how the starts line up and everything like that. If they screw him out of the starting job for the American League 2 years in a row, I will raise heck on this program. I will freak out if for the second year in a row he gets, I got to play my guy Burns last year with Baltimore, and now this year with if Fried gets it or something ridiculous, I will freak out. So hopefully that's not the case. You have a 13.5 game lead on Minnesota. You have a 15.5 game lead on Kansas City and a 16.5 game lead on Cleveland, who now is 8 games under 500 and has lost 10 in a row. You might have just ended Cleveland's season. And I know that's dangerous to say. They could win, 15 in a row and be right back in it and buy at the deadline, etc. But there's a chance that both of these teams look back at that and go, well, that was kind of the nail in the coffin and why Cleveland, sold at the deadline or whatever. So we'll see. Now you have Tampa Bay for 3 games at home. You just played Tampa, 2-ish weeks ago. No Skubal, no Mize. So you're going to have to make it with TBD against Shane Baz, then Ryan Pepio against Jack Flaherty, and Zach Liddell against Reese Olson. I feel like those are the same 3 that we faced when we faced them a couple weekends ago. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we definitely faced Pepio and Baz. I remember vividly. So we'll see. Looking for bounce back outing from Flaherty, looking for Reese Olson to, extend his outings and get back into form as well. TBD, we'll see. I don't know when the last time Kader Montero pitched. Is it going to be Dietrich Enns again? I'm not sure you can really justify that after his last outing. So we'll see what happens, but maybe just a bullpen game. A good old-fashioned pitching chaos, if you will. So that was awesome. I'm not trying to make it sound like the Tigers are just like this invincible team either. And I want you to really hear me on that. I do not want to be the bias guy that only talks about the good things. That's why I have the show structured the way it is, actually, is so I force myself to talk about both sides of the coin and talk about what's not going well. The Tigers need bullpen help. They need starting pitching help. They probably would love to add a bat at the deadline. These are all true. It's also true that they have the best record in baseball and just swept Cleveland. Both things can be true at the same time. And I'm really tired of everyone acting like they can't. Those are both true statements. We can enjoy where the team is at while also acknowledging the things and areas they need to improve on. Let's try and walk the line while celebrating the fact that they have the most wins in baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 1. Maybe we'll go a little bit more in depth on the All-Star rosters at some point this week as well. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Appreciate you all, for real. Go Tigers.